Let's talk about something kind of wild. We're going to uncover the hidden chemical connection between the battery in your pocket, a shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean, and a simple soda can. It's all a story about energy, how we unleash it, and how we manage to force it right back into the bottle.
So, what is it? What on earth connects these three totally random objects? Well, the answer is a really fundamental process in chemistry, the transfer of electrons. But how that transfer happens, whether we control it, whether it just runs wild, or if we actually reverse it, that makes all the difference in the world.
Okay, so here's the plan. First, we'll look at the tamed reaction that powers our batteries. Then, we're going to see what happens when that exact same reaction goes wild with corrosion. After that, we'll explore how to literally reverse the flow using something called electrolysis, see how that helps us create new metals, and finally, we'll connect all the dots and see our modern electrochemical world for what it really is.
All right, let's dive right in with batteries. This is where we humans have become absolute masters at controlling spontaneous chemical reactions. We've figured out how to get them to release their energy exactly when and where we want it.
Okay, so here's a fun fact that most of us, myself included, get wrong all the time. We call everything a battery, but technically, a single AA is a cell, just one unit. A battery is what you get when you chain two or more of those cells together to get more power.
So let's take that classic 9-volt battery, right? It's not one big power unit. Nope, it's actually 6 little 1.5-volt cells all stacked together in a chain. Their individual voltages just add up, giving you that 9-volt punch you need for more demanding stuff.
Now, these cells basically come in two main flavors. You've got your primary cells, like disposable alkaline batteries. They're a one-way street. Once the chemical reaction is done, that's it, game over. But then you have secondary cells, like the lithium-ion ones in our phones. They're specifically designed so their chemical reaction can be reversed, which means we can charge them up again and again.
And this right here, this is the core idea for this entire explainer. Using a battery or discharging it is a spontaneous process. It's as natural as water flowing downhill. But recharging it, that's non-spontaneous. You have to physically add energy to pump that water back uphill. Seriously, keep this downhill/uphill idea in your head. It's the key to everything we're talking about today.
Okay, so we've seen the tamed, controlled reaction. But what happens when that exact same downhill flow of energy isn't tamed at all? Well, you get corrosion. It's the same fundamental process as a battery, just running wild.
You know, corrosion is really just metal trying to get back to its more stable, natural state. You know, the ore that it came from in the first place. It's a spontaneous reaction, just like in a battery. And get this, it's a massive problem. It's estimated that about 1/5 of all the iron and steel we produce every single year is just to replace metal that is literally rusted away.
And this is where it gets really cool. Rust isn't just something that happens on the surface. The metal itself becomes a tiny, short-circuited battery. In one spot, the anode, iron actually dissolves and releases electrons. Those electrons then travel right through the steel to another spot, the cathode, where they react with oxygen. When all those parts meet up, boom, you've got rust.
You know, this actually explains a lot of things we see every day. The salt they put on roads in the winter, it doesn't cause the rust on your car, but it sure accelerates it by helping those ions move around. And have you ever wondered why an aluminum airplane doesn't just, dissolve in a rainstorm? It's because it instantly forms this super tough, invisible layer of aluminum oxide that seals the metal underneath. Gold, on the other hand, well, it's just chemically lazy. It has no desire to react with oxygen in the first place.
So, we've seen the reaction go downhill all by itself, both in a controlled battery and in a piece of uncontrolled rust. But what if we could actually force it to go back uphill? And that, my friends, brings us to our third act, electrolysis.
Electrolysis is the complete opposite of what happens in a battery. Instead of getting electricity out of a reaction that happens on its own, we pump electricity in to force a reaction to happen that would never happen on its own. This is us literally pumping that water back up the hill.
And this table just lays it all out, side by side. It's a perfect mirror image. A galvanic cell, that's your battery or rust, it runs on its own. It produces energy. But an electrolytic cell, like when you're recharging something, needs energy pumped in. And look, everything flips. Even the anode and cathode switch their electrical charge. It's the same basic setup, just running in reverse. Now, this ability to force chemistry to run in reverse, it is insanely powerful. Let's take a look at how we use it for some absolutely massive industrial applications. First up,
Making aluminum. You know, the metal in our cans, our foil, our airplanes. It doesn't just exist in pure form in nature. No way. It's locked away super tightly in an ore, mostly as aluminum oxide. And to get it out, we have to reverse that natural process. We need electrolysis.
But there was a huge roadblock. To do electrolysis, you usually need to melt the substance. But aluminum oxide melts at over 2,000 degrees Celsius. That's just impractically hot. The big breakthrough was a thing called the Hall-Héroult process, where they discovered you could just dissolve the aluminum oxide in another molten mineral, which dropped the melting point all the way down to a much more manageable 1,000 degrees.
Okay, another really cool application of this is electroplating. This is how we can put a super thin, protective, or just plain decorative layer of one metal onto another. Think of shiny chrome bumpers or fancy silver-plated forks.
And the way it works is actually pretty elegant. The object you want to coat, you make that the cathode in your electrolytic cell. Then you dip it in a solution that's full of ions of the metal you want to plate it with. Let's say zinc ions if you're galvanizing steel. You turn on the power, and that current literally forces the zinc ions to come out of the solution and stick to the steel, forming this perfect protective layer. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together now and see how this builds into one big unified cycle. Because once you understand this flow of energy, this downhill and uphill process, you start to see it shaping our entire modern world.
And here it is, the whole story in one simple chart. Batteries and corrosion, they're both spontaneous reactions. Energy comes out. That's the water flowing downhill. Electrolysis, whether it's for recharging a battery or making metal, that's non-spontaneous. You have to put energy in to pump those electrons back uphill. Downhill and uphill. It's that simple.
So you might be asking, why does any of this really matter? Well, look at this. Making brand new aluminum from its ore, that's the pumping uphill part, is incredibly energy intensive. But recycling an old can? That's a whole different story. The metal is already pure. You just have to melt it down. It takes only about 5% of the energy. This shows why understanding and managing this whole cycle has huge real-world consequences. So, from the battery in your pocket to that can in the recycling bin, it's all part of this one grand cycle of releasing energy and then forcing it back. Which leaves us with the final thought. Now that you can see this fundamental chemical give and take everywhere, what do you think the next big innovations will be? Better batteries? New ways to stop corrosion completely? More efficient ways to create the materials of tomorrow? The possibilities are as vast as the chemistry itself.